What's going on? How you doing? Welcome to Two Cents. My name is Hassan Riggs. I'm the founder and CEO at Smart Alto. And it's been a while since I've actually kind of popped in. As you know, got the whole coronavirus thing happening. My father, he just moved from LaGrange, Georgia to Statesboro, Georgia. So I had to go around and try to get him moved over the last couple of weeks. But I wanted to come to you and just say, what's up? It's been a long time since we chatted, but it's good to kind of be back and get back in the saddle. And since I've been gone, there's a lot of things that have happened, and I wanted to come to you for a couple of minutes and just say a couple of things. Everyone is panicking about the coronavirus, and you're hearing a lot of horror stories and, um, people who are sadly passing away. Unfortunately, it's affecting older people like my dad, my mom, your dad, your mom, like older people. People in nursing homes are passing away. You got a lot of crazy things that are happening, but there's also a lot of good things that are happening, and a lot of folks around America are coming together, pulling together. And there's a couple things that I wanted to share. Number one is, you know, even in the chaos, in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of the storm, there's never a good time to panic. It's absolutely never a good time to panic. Um, I'm gonna share a very personal story with you. When I was young, I was physically abused. I lived in a house with my mom, who's fantastic. I did not live with my dad though. My dad's he's a great dad, one of the best people I know. Um, but I lived with my stepfather, and he was a really good man when he was sober. The problem is he wasn't sober too often, and when he would come home, any little small thing would just piss him off, and he was physically abusive. He would punch, he would kick, he would beat my mom, he would beat me. It was a very difficult and hard situation. The only way that I was able to survive that situation is with a clear head, a calm mouth, and being strategic. And so for a long time we lived on eggshells. But I do know that if I panicked in certain situations and I misstepped, I honestly believe I wouldn't be here today. I honestly believe that. When you're in the midst of a battle, you're in the midst of a storm, you need to rely on your fundamentals. You need to rely on your training. One of my good buddies, he's a Navy SEAL. And he talks about that all the time. When there's chaos happening around you, someone, you specifically, needs to be a person who thinks twice, cut once. Needs to be a person who reads and reacts. You need to be a person who can rely on training, rely on what they were told, as opposed to being the person who panics, who doesn't know what to do, who acts hysterical, who gets outside of their normal character. Because the best people, they evolve, they adapt, they change, they grow, they evolve, they adapt, they change, they grow, they evolve, they adapt, they change, they grow. And if you don't have the wherewithal to do that, you die. You panic and you die. That's why when you get thrown in, if you don't know how to swim and you get thrown into the ocean and you start panicking, you go down faster. You sink faster. Same thing in business, same thing in life. We're in a situation right now where we're in the ocean and it's wave after wave after wave after wave. And some of you don't know how to swim because you haven't prepared yourself. If you start panicking, though, you die faster. This is your time to rely on what you've learned, rely on your training, and come out of this situation stronger. The second thing I want to mention is here's a great opportunity to find, it's a great time to find opportunity in the chaos. One of the best lessons that I learned when I was growing up is that oftentimes you can take a look to see what everyone else is doing and do the opposite. Not always true, but oftentimes that is true because people, they're herders. You have this thing that's called groupthink. You can read about it, it's a scientific principle. groupthink. When people are around one another, they start to think alike and they start to cluster, the herd mentality. And that's why five heads are not always better than two, and two heads are not always better than one, because at times you stop relying on what you know to be true in your North Star, and instead you start to rely on what everyone else believes to be true. And you kind of drift slightly and ever so slightly away from what your North Star is. This is your business, it's your life, it's your time to make a decision, and it's your time to zig when everyone else is zagging. And so, oftentimes, when everyone else is kind of pulling back, I'll figure out ways that I can zig when they zag. I'll figure out ways where I can be more aggressive when I can do what they're not doing. I can think differently because if I think the same way that everyone else thinks, I do the same thing that everyone else does, I get the same results that everyone else gets. And most people are average. That's a mathematical principle. That's not me saying that. Like most people are average. I am shooting for above average. I'm shooting for above the fold, right? So I want to think differently. I want to do things differently. I want to evolve, adapt, grow, and change. Evolve, adapt, grow, and change. I've always been wired like that, but it's also something that I've tried my best to get better at. Listen to what everyone says, but don't do what they say just because they say it. You need a broad perspective here. Part of the problem that folks has is that they only get their information from one source. Right? You see it all the time in politics. I live in Washington D.C. I got a lot of friends on the Hill, Republican, Democrat, other, right? A lot of people who are I ain't, I vote for whoever I believe is going to help me, right? So that's how a lot of people I know who they think like that, right? They're not necessarily on one side of the aisle or the other. And you have a lot of folks who they only get their information from one source. And when you only get your information from one source, you're biased to that way of thinking. You don't have a broad perspective. You can't take a look back and see different angles and see that, you know what? They may be a little bit too far to the right. They may be a little bit too far to the left. They may be somewhere slightly in the middle. Where do I fit here? What's going to be my strategy? Not like from reading some blog post or talking to some one off person at the grocery store. We can't even go to the grocery store now, but talking to some one off person, but rather allowing data to make decisions, to help you make decisions. You can't allow data to make all the decisions for you because of that, then why would you need to make decisions? You just get robots to do it all. But use the data to guide your decision making. You have some people who are saying, I'm not going to generate leads right now because no one's buying. I had a conversation today with a guy. I don't have permission to mention his name, but he's in Utah and he was getting leads, buyer leads for $7 a lead. Now they're down to $1.30. He is quite literally building his pipeline right now. Over the past 30 days, he's generated 250 leads. He's got two people under contract right now because no one else is running ads in that market. Everyone else is pulling back and he started to double down. He zigged when everyone else is zagging. How can you find the opportunity in your market? How can you think about, well, I know all of these crazy things are happening. I know that people are saying this and it's the pandemic and it's doomsday. And that may be true for some people, but how can I find the opportunity here? And that's where it benefits people who have an ink mindset and not a me mindset. They have a we mindset and not a me mindset because they're thinking about how they can help and serve their community. Because if you think during this time that people aren't buying homes, you're not paying attention. Fewer people are purchasing homes, but people are still buying homes. And so it behooves you to take a step back and think about, hey, is the information I'm hearing accurate? And is it true for me? I know it may be true I know that may be what people believe, but is it true for me? Because your business is different from someone else's. You can use them as inspiration, you can learn from them, but you have to make the decision on how it's happening in your business. We're doing that in Smart Alto right now. We still like me, any marketing channel that I can make work, I try to make it work, but we're also testing other marketing channels because we don't want to be so reliant on one channel, because if that channel dries up, then you're screwed. And I run a different business, right? I have a venture backed company where the expectations are quite different, where I need to find opportunities to grow the business. I need to find opportunities to think differently, to change, to grow, to adapt, to evolve. And if I don't do that, then I'm in bad shape, not only now, but also in the future, right? So figure out ways during some of your downtime to be strategic, to think twice, cut once, be surgical. During this time, you need to be surgical about what you test, right? You need to find the opportunities for growth, as opposed to thinking about this as lost income or just dead time. Now, there's also something, as I'm growing my team, that over the past 3 years, I have managed 50 plus team members across four different times, across four countries and six different time zones. All right, so I manage a remote team, and one of the things that I'm doing with my remote team, because this is a different scenario than anything else I've ever experienced in my life. You can't just take the normal working behavior and apply it to now. And so I'm having to think about the way I manage my team differently, the way I lead people differently, because some people work remote already, but now everyone is working remote, and you have kids at home, which totally changes the perspective on things. And so I'm leading with ETO, ETO, with empathy, with trust, and with outcomes, in that order: empathy, trust, outcomes. I lead with empathy. Why? Because I'm experiencing the same thing everyone else is experiencing, maybe to a different degree, but everyone is on this spectrum. Everyone is being impacted by this. Some people are really struggling and they're going out of business. Other people are thriving, but everyone is on the same spectrum, right? It's just different degrees. And so now you have folks who have kids at home, and they may only be able to work a couple of hours a day. I have to change the way that I think about what productivity looks like during this time. And you can't continue to move the goalpost on people. You have to set clear expectations for my team, and then keep those expectations and have really small feedback loops. What's getting done today? Oh, well, you know what? My kids are home. They're not in school. You can only work 2 hours a day. That's okay. That's fine. Just give me the 2 hours that you can, and do the best that you can during those 2 hours. And the rest of the time, pay attention to your kids, pay attention to your husband, pay attention to your family. Do whatever you have to do. Take care of yourself. Lead with empathy. Number two, lead with trust. I'm really taking this time to make sure that that everyone on my team trusts one another. And fortunately, we do, because if we didn't, we would be in a really bad place right now. I'm not a micromanager. I allow people to make decisions themselves. Now we have smaller feedback loops, because it's important for me to kind of know what's going on so that I can better support some of the people on my team. So as opposed to having a feedback loop once a week, we may have a feedback loop every 2 days or every 3 days, just so I can get a pulse on what's actually happening, right? So I can get a pulse on what's happening. But that is an important thing, to lead with trust. If I didn't trust my people, I would be micromanaging. I would be concerned, like, what's happening? Are they actually working? Right? So I'm trying to lead with trust. Number three, outcomes. Outcomes. When you lead with empathy and you lead with trust, the outcomes are there. At the end of the week, like, I made a promise to you, you made a promise to me that something was going to actu- actually get done. We made that promise to one another. Give me a heads up if you don't think you're going to be able to get it done, or if you need help along the way, because we still have a business to run. outcomes. But if you take care of people, people will take care of you. Right? So those are like three things that I wanted to share. Number one is is I forgot what number one is, but I'll say one thing is find the opportunity in the chaos. Right? Be an independent thinker. Find the opportunity in the chaos. Find the opportunity to zig when everyone else is zagging. Um, Number two, there's never a good time to panic. Remember the story I shared with you, a very vulnerable story, by the way, about how I was abused. I was physically abused as a child. It's not something I'm proud about, but it is a part of my story. And I truly believe me, my mom, my brother, we got out of that situation because we were level-headed and we were able to survive to live another day. Because when you panic, you die. Rely on your fundamentals. Evolve, change, adapt, think, grow. Find the opportunity in the chaos and lead with ETO, with empathy, trust, and outcomes. So it was good to chat with you all today. I appreciate you kind of showing up and showing out. Right, it's always good. I know I haven't been here in a while. I haven't had a Facebook Live in a while because I've been traveling, helping my dad move, and now that I'm back, the whole coronavirus thing, and so I will be back with you soon. I know we have a Facebook Live coming up with William Hegman about how to turn Facebook into a lead generation machine. We're going to talk about that. It's been postponed like twice, maybe three times now, but it hasn't been canceled. It's been postponed a bit, but it hasn't been canceled. So we'll come back to you with that. And hope you're doing well and talk to you soon. Peace.